One really interesting takeaway from this lecture, and I'm curious if you agree with this, is when we think about this period in history, we often think of Japan as the rising power in Asia.
Yeah.
But it seems like the takeaway here is actually Russia was on the path to be the dominant power here. Their population is so much bigger. If the efforts to modernize worked, they would just have a 4x bigger population, but then they could have had the modern industry Japan has. And so were it not later on, obviously for the Bolshevik Revolution and the Civil War and collectivization, Russia would be dominant. And Japan, seeing this, acts early to. So I guess I didn't put it in those terms before I heard this lecture. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'm going to give you a tangential answer, then you tell me what I'm missing. The sorrow of Russia is here they have this incredible land, natural resources in the works, and they're really hung up on empire, on having lots of territory, and they live in a difficult neighborhood. Witte is telling Nicholas, forget about the Asian adventures. We need to build more railways in European Russia. And he was right, because if they could have mobilized better in World War I, you might get some different outcomes. Also, you might have avoided the food riots in St. Petersburg, which is what topples the Romanov dynasty. If you'd actually provided enough food to St. Petersburg, maybe you don't have those riots because you have the railways running and things. And so Russia is a story of misinvestment. Look at it today. If Putin had taken all of his oil money and invested it in the transportation grid, because believe it or not, Russia still just does things by train. Its road systems are appallingly bad. And if Russia actually cleaned up its legal system, which under the czars it hadn't done either, everything is always royal monopolies. If they had cleaned up these things to allow individuals to make their own investments and make money, it'd be a completely different story. But czars couldn't stand merchants. Communists hated them even more. And cultural differences. And then the Russians aren't known for being meticulous and hardworking the way Japanese are. Russians are known to be hard drinkers, right? And they're also known for being brutal.
Let me take another different stab at your thesis.
Go for it.
So it's not Japan's strategic brilliance, which mainly explains why they won the war, but rather the fact that Russia could have kept going even after the Baltic fleet is sunk, even after they've lost in Mukden. But what changes is in 1905, you have this massive peasant revolution, you have mass strikes in the cities, you have Bloody Sunday in January. So the Tsar's government almost collapses to the point that he has to at least give the perception of instituting major reforms.
Unclear whether it's going to collapse.
This is maybe a tangent, but when I had Stephen Kotkin, the Stalin biographer, on,
you might know more about it.
So it was Japan cannot be claim credit for the fact that there was these long-standing issues in Russia which almost brought down the government in 1905. This was a lucky break that they got, which forced Russia and the Tsar to reallocate their efforts from the fight.
It's a good argument. He might be right. This is why I think we'll never get definitive answers, because you'd have to be in Nicholas II's brain, right? It's an autocracy. What he decides matters. I dare say if he had been Peter the Great, the guy who tortured his only son to death and has suffered numerous setbacks, I doubt that he would have had any problems dealing with rioting Russians. He would have figured out who are loyal units and then just blow away whatever's getting in his way. And he would have done his next battle. And then when he won that battle, the Russian Revolution would have gone away, because they would have gone, see, we did it. We got these people. So, but it's Kotkin's argument is a very good one. But to me, it's Nicholas II's incompetent leadership is the bigger thing. And then you're arguing about how important is the rebellion and how deep-rooted it is, and you'll never know, right, what this... Kotkin can be absolutely right. And I think this is a reason, one of the reasons I gave the counter-argument is to get used to understanding ambiguity and appreciating that other people could be right, and you may not know. So,
if you enjoyed this clip, you can watch the full episode here and subscribe for more clips. Thanks.